Americans plan their budgets every year, but it has been nearly 4 years since the Democrat-controlled Senate did the same. Well, now Republicans are trying to apply some new pressure to get the Senate budget resolution passed. Our next guest says it is just not enough to pass a budget. It has to be balanced as well. Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah joins us now. He just filed a bill pushing that amendment. Senator Lee sits on the Joint Economic and Armed Services Committee. A balanced budget amendment in a thumbnail sketch. What would it do, Senator?
Basically, it would impose a permanent structural spending reform on Congress, requiring Congress each and every year to pass a balanced budget. In other words, to spend no more money than it takes in, unless, of course, Congress can come up with a supermajority of votes necessary to trigger an unusual and difficult to achieve exception.
Well, I know you've been in the Senate 2 years. There have been many balanced budget amendments introduced in the past. They've always been shot down. What do you think? Why do you think the time is right now?
Because the need has never been stronger. We've got to do this now because we're $16 trillion in debt. We're adding to that debt at a rate of $1 trillion a year. We can't keep doing this very much longer before disaster strikes. And so I think the American people are getting behind this mindset, this movement that calls upon Congress to do what the overwhelming majority of state legislatures do every year, which is pass budgets. You know, last year in the Senate, we had a total of 67 votes for a balanced budget amendment. It's just that we had 47 on one proposal and 20 on another. But you add those together, and that's the 2/3 margin we need to propose a constitutional amendment out of the Senate, and I think we can get there.
But as I said at the outset, I mean, the Senate hasn't passed a budget in 4 years, let alone a balanced one.
It's all the more reason for us to do this, because with or without a budget, this amendment would require us to not spend any more than we take in unless we can come up with a 2/3 supermajority vote.
Did you hear anything in the president's inaugural address yesterday that suggested he might be on board with your idea? I can't say that I did.
Oh, I was listening very closely to see if he might plug the balanced budget amendment, but alas, I was disappointed, and he did not.
Well, you know, campaigning for office the first time around, he was complaining about the $9 trillion in debt we had at that point and saying it was un-American and you know, the wrong thing to leave to our children and grandchildren. Now we're at $16 trillion. When is this thing going to turn around?
Well, that's right. We needed to turn around. And, you know, it was on that very basis that then Senator Obama voted against an effort to raise the debt limit. So we do need to turn it around. The way we turn it around is through permanent structural spending reform like a balanced budget amendment, and that's what we need to have here.
Senator Chuck Schumer, your fellow senator, Democrat from New York, said on the Sunday shows that it is looking like the Senate might come up with some kind of a budget resolution, and it includes tax increases. Is that the way to solve this thing?
No, tax increases are not going to solve our problem. Ultimately, what we have is not a revenue problem or a tax problem, although our tax code is bloated and distorted and unnecessarily complex. But we're not going to solve this problem through additional revenue. We're going to solve it by changing the way we spend money.